You okay? You need a minute? Cool. Okay. Listen up, people. I know a thing or two about extinction. And let me tell you, and you'd kind of think this would be obvious, going extinct is a bad thing. And driving yourselves extinct? In 70 million years, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. At least we had an asteroid. What's your excuse? You're headed for a climate disaster, and yet every year governments spend hundreds of billions of public funds on fossil fuel subsidies. Imagine if we had spent hundreds of billions per year subsidizing giant meteors. That's what you're doing right now. Think of all the other things you could do with that money. Around the world, people are living in poverty. Don't you think helping them would make more sense than, I don't know, paying for the demise of your entire species? Let me be real for a second. You've got a huge opportunity right now. As you rebuild your economies and bounce back from this pandemic, this is humanity's big chance. So here's my wild idea. Don't choose extinction. Save your species before it's too late. It's time for you humans to stop making excuses and start making changes. Thank you.
We are coming out, thanks also to the leadership of China in terms of fighting the pandemic, in terms of reinvigorating its economy. We have now a window of opportunity to create this global reset which we all need. This global reset is necessary because we have seen that our policies which we pursued before the coronavirus struck us, that those policies do not create the necessary inclusion of society necessary for harmonious societal development. And they do not create the sustainability of what we are doing. Just think of the global warming, how fast it is developing in the opposite, into the negative direction. So we have a great opportunity at this moment, like we had after World War II, to have in some way a new beginning in our global cooperation, in globalization, in managing our global affairs. I hope that we will not miss this opportunity.
The difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing, it changes you. If you take genetic editing, right. Just as an example, it's you who are changed. Yeah. And of course this has a big impact on your identity.
Yeah. And offers certain kinds of possibilities that have to be careful about. You know, when you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worry that you are changing what it means to be human.
That's the problem. And of course, the new industrial revolution offers us many opportunities, but it raises manifold questions on the ethical, but even legal implications. And we have to be prepared for it, and that's what we want to do in Davos next year.
Talk about technology and how the ways it can be deployed, that contribute to growth rather than exacerbate unemployment. How will that implement itself?
It's a big question mark because there is a fear that technology, robots, just to take one
you gain
element,
productivity from machines.
Exactly, and it replaces maybe the workforce or jobs faster than we can replace them with new jobs. Not everybody can be a robot polisher and so on, so there will be new jobs.
Aujourd'hui, au bout de ça, on parle de puces qu'on pourra s'implanter. Ce sera quand ça?
Certainement dans les 10 années à venir. Et d'abord, on va les implanter dans nos vêtements, c'est-à-dire wearables, comme on le dit. Et après, on pourrait s'imaginer qu'on les implante dans nos cerveaux ou dans notre peau. Et à la fin, peut-être il y a une communication directe entre notre cerveau et le monde digital. Ce que nous voyons, c'est une sorte de fusion du monde physique, digital et biologique.
On appelle quelqu'un, on n'a même plus le réflexe de devoir prendre un appareil, ça se fait naturellement. Hein. La technique continue le corps.
Oui, vous parlez et vous dites, je veux maintenant être connecté avec n'importe qui.
Hein?
Et d'abord, vous avez les robots personnalisés. Et j'ai vu que M. Zuckerberg a prédit qu'à la fin de l'année, il va avoir son robot, son butler personnalisé qui est à sa disposition.
Donc, comme dans Downton Abbey, on aura son butler personnel, son serviteur, son esclave.
Oui, mais il y a une différence. C'est un serviteur qui, avec l'intelligence artificielle, apprend et qui n'est pas seulement votre assistant pour des travaux manuels, qui peut vraiment être un partenaire intellectuel de vous.
In the early 1990s, we realized that computers would get incredibly clever, and this would be a big threat unless we could actually figure out some way of keeping up with the machines. And the obvious way of keeping up with the machines is to be able to make a direct connection between our brains and the machine world. So we thought, well, how can you do that? You can't stick a DIN socket into the back of your head. That isn't going to work very well. But then lots of people started talking about nanotechnology and self-replicating devices, and we thought, well, at some point in the distant future, say 2030, 2040, who knows, you should be able to get an injection into your arm with a few nanotechnology devices which would wander up to your brain and start connecting to every single neuron. And there's enough address space, and even in IP version 6, the internet addressing system, you can address signals to every single neuron individually in your brain. In fact, every neuron in the entire planet, everybody's brain, you can send signals to. So we've got a means, in principle, of connecting electronic devices to every brain cell in your head. Therefore, you can take an exact replica of your brain. So I could have Ian Pearson Mark II living inside my PC in 2030, and I could have all of my thoughts backed up on there, all of my memories backed up, and if I get run down by a bus, it doesn't matter. It's not a career problem because I've got a backup on the network. So this is a wonderful concept for the future. We call it Soul Catcher, effectively capturing my entire mind and dumping it on a chip, well, notionally a chip, and I would have another existence in cyberspace. Unfortunately, a lot of the media have misunderstood. They thought we were doing this next year, but it's actually sort of 25, 30 years away, unless we get some very big breakthroughs in technology between now and then.